Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like this to serve as my no vote explanation.
Objection so ordered.
Members, I want to first express my appreciation for some of the amendments that have just been made to Senate Bill 1108. The sunsets at least put a date on the calendar when we can discuss these changes again, hopefully in a setting with less emotional influence. Even so, I must vote no because I find the legislation to be setting a dangerous precedent for the sanctity and openness of our local governments. So before we walk into making this choice that seems so non-threatening and copacetic, I want to be sure that you hear a voice of warning about the real dangers of this policy. The general premise that this is even necessary for our local elected leaders flies in the face of logic and equity. Here we are, working. Our grocery store workers are working. Our hospital and healthcare workers are working. Schools are operating. Churches are meeting. Are we to simply accept the premise that sitting in a city council meeting is too dangerous and can't have its potential risks readily mitigated? I think not. So why are we doing this? If this was only permitted once an emergency was declared, I could give it a second thought. But even then, emergencies can be declared for many situations that are not necessarily placing a council or board in any danger at all. Why should these provisions be granted in those type of emergencies? People say things to me like, well, what's the big deal? This works fine, or we have more people participating now. But I've attended some of these meetings that allow remote participation of members. They've been riddled with examples of dangerous abuses that allow abuse of members and the public. I attended one school board meeting where a member participated from an airport in another state. He wasn't called until near the vote. He didn't participate with the public comment or the board discussion until the very end. In that case, it was obvious that he's not hearing the input from the public and the faculty there to comment on the agenda items and the board decisions. And nothing in this bill assures us of anything better. We have no way to know that members aren't watching television during the public comment or board discussion. No way to know that the blank screen that we're seeing isn't them stepping out to use the bathroom or grab the third or fourth beer of the night. No way to know that it's not someone on the other side of their camera unduly influencing their vote. There's even the chance that it might not even be them voting if they end up submitting their vote through the chat option because the audio has stopped working. Even this provision for sick members to attend with a doctor's note can be readily abused. Several or even all the members might be sick, leaving less than a quorum and no one at all, or even no one at all, in the physical meeting room. While using our modern technology seems like an easy answer, not just to our current situation, but to any impracticality surrounding our system of representative government, the problems I mentioned are very real and easily envisioned outcomes. How many of us have turned the camera off and muted our phones so we could take another call, or use the bathroom, or speak to the McDonald's drive-through speaker, or read a Facebook post, or make a colorful or disparaging remark to somebody else who's in the room with us? Listening into the call that we haven't told anybody else they were listening in on the call on. How many of us use the chat feature? What's to stop board members from using the chat feature to discuss actual policy discussions privately while somebody else from the public is there talking? What if the members were to walk out of the room, get up, walk out of the room, and hold another meeting to discuss during the public comment period? That would be an open violation of the Open Meetings Act. But we're doing nothing when that exact same thing happens in a chat room in the meeting room. At least when it's in the public. The members of the public who are there can see what the board members are doing and see they're not paying attention and hold them accountable that way. Zoom participation does not do this. And this doesn't even acknowledge what process would constitute a failure to have an open meeting should the technology fail or glitch up. If the technology cuts out during a vote, does the meeting stop? What if the members can't get back on the call? What if a quorum is suddenly missing? Does the meeting adjourn? Where are the rules to provide order and fairness to this? And still, I can hear some of you saying I'm making a big deal about this because all the recent work we've been doing contains this component and it's been working out. But I call on all of you to recognize that the longer this goes on, the more normal it becomes, and the more important and significant the policy discussions that are done this way become, the more corrupted these methods will become. Power corrupts, and as our local bodies and leaders, or even potentially this body, should we ever excuse ourselves with these provisions, it won't be long before these seemingly innocuous provisions devolve into a cancer on the democratic process. And it's critical to recognize that these meetings are done in the public eye and together for critical reasons that we should not just casually cast aside. Appointed and volunteer boards and authorities are not my concern, and they should have these provisions. But elected members have stood to be counted as willing to speak for their constituents. They wanted and worked for the job, and they knew it would entail public interfacing and potentially even some danger. We wanted this job. And life happens. People get sick or have other obligations that happen and take them away from a meeting. That's okay. There's no shame in taking an absence at times. But should citizens who have decided to live outside of their district or state for several months of the year actually continue to serve? Can they actually serve? The citizens need a place to confront their electeds openly. Sometimes even their presence in a council chamber or in the Senate gallery communicates that message. Do we really believe a number count at the bottom of the screen conveys that same message of support or opposition to the elected people? In closing, I ask you to vote no, restarting the regular order of our local elected boards, except during a declared emergency where their lives are endangered by a meeting, should be our goal, not this broad and problematic solution. Thank you, Mr. President.